Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Magically Cruising, the cruise podcast where we share our personal cruise experiences and tips with you to help you make the most out of your next cruise. My name's Kieran. I'm an independent travel agent specializing in all things cruise and Disney, and I'm joined by my fellow co-host, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm from Cruising for All Cruising with Kids and Mini Travelers.
And this week, we are very excited. We have our first ever guest on our podcast as well, and it's a dear friend of Sarah's as well. So if you want to introduce yourself, Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura. I am a blogger, I suppose, from Cruise Lifestyle.
We're very excited to have you with us. You've obviously got a wealth of cruise experience as well, and you're very prevalent on Twitter as well. And I do love engaging with your cruise hour as well on Twitter when I remember. I'm really bad at remembering when it is. And then I normally get on about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock on Tuesday. It's Tuesday, isn't it? It happens.
Yeah, Tuesdays, 8 o'clock. It's for an hour. It does tend to go over a little bit. And then people like you find it and then start replying. So it does extend a little bit past the 9 o'clock, but it's good to have a chat every week. And it was really good to do during the lockdown when cruising completely stopped. It kind of kept us all a little bit sane once a week, just chatting about cruising until it started again. So yeah, it's a nice little group.
It's something I enjoy every week when I remember about it, because it's really good to kind of pick up tips from other cruisers, because everyone cruises slightly differently. So I love that part about it. But also to just sharing my love of cruise with people as well. I think it's quite nice seeing people engage with my type of style of cruising that I personally like to do as well, and just kind of having that dialogue and having people kind of go, oh, I've never thought about that, or I didn't think of that. Thanks for the tip. So I think it's a really lovely kind of little thing to do on Twitter and have that engagement and learn about other people's cruising as well.
I really need to get back into it.
Yeah. Come back, Sarah, when you can. I know you're a busy lady.
I know once we get through this house renovation, I'll come back.
Yeah, it is quite a diverse group. There is obviously people from the UK, but there are people from the US that join us if the time zone allows. So we have a good range of people who cruise on all different types. So we have people who cruise on luxury. That was the topic for yesterday's cruise hour, was actually cruising in luxury. So we had different people again come on just to share their experience, all the way down to people who cruise as much as possible. And in order to do that, they do look at more of the budget line. And the other thing that has been really useful personally for me is ideas for things to do in port or that kind of thing. So the excursion stuff has been really useful, because people have been, if you look at the amount of places that all these people have been, there's got to be someone somewhere that's got a suggestion of something to do in particular areas or particular ports. So that's been really useful.
I think that's the great thing about it. It does a really good job of showcasing how diverse cruise is as a product, of the fact of, as you say, there's value cruise, there's premium, there's luxury, there's traditional, there's contemporary. And I think it's only when you engage with other people and let's speak to their experiences, so you get a real sense of just how amazing the cruise community is and how varied cruise holidays are. You know, even down to the regions, Americans cruise very differently to how Europeans cruise. So I think it's just really nice to kind of connect with other cruisers and kind of go, oh yeah, there's a whole world of ports I never even knew existed that I've come across now because of the cruise hour.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no agenda to it. It is just literally just an hour once a week just to chat about cruising. So it's just it's just a nice hour of the week.
So today we're here to discuss your recent cruise, and we're going to do a trip report on P&O Arvia. So
Yes.
how many times have you cruised on P&O before, Laura?
So I started when I was a child. We started on P&O. So
Right.
we actually took 2 cruises on Canberra, which was well, it's not even around anymore. It's been scrapped, unfortunately. But that was my first experience of P&O. And then we haven't actually done P&O until it was 2020. It was January of 2020 before things all kind of went a
Oh,
little bit
wow.
pear-shaped.
Yeah.
And so we went on Britannia to the Caribbean. Wanted our friends to come with us, and we said, for your first cruise, where do you want to go? And they said they kind of thought cruising, it's got to be the Caribbean. So we found quite a nice itinerary on Britannia. So that was the last time we went on a P&O ship. And so, yeah, this is then the next time. So 3 years on, I suppose, on the newest ship.
Oh, I was going to say, so Arvia then is the newest ship, and she's obviously the second in there. Is she XL class, isn't it? She's generally
Yeah.
broadly known as the XL class because Carnival also have their own XL class ships. Very different from P&O XL class ships, but they're kind of part of that same class of ship ultimately. And I think she's definitely changing up the game a little bit for P&O as well, kind of with the kind of anytime dining and things like that as well on board. So she's still that quintessential P&O experience, that very British cruise line, very British experience on board, but she's trying a few new things across that class of ship. What would you say was the reason why you chose this particular sailing? First of all, maybe tell us which cruise you did, which itinerary, and then why you chose that particular itinerary.
Okay, so we took a 14-night cruise on Arvia from Southampton. It was a Mediterranean cruise, and it's doing pretty much that itinerary all the way through the summer of 2023. And then what it'll do is it'll go back to the Caribbean for the winter season. So we were invited to go to an event and in Southampton, and we looked at the cruise that was going out that day, and then we looked at the price, and we thought, shall we book it? There was a few other reasons. So this was end of April, beginning of May. And so it would also be over the time when the coronation was on. So I thought, actually, that might be quite interesting. British Cruise Line, coronation. They're probably going to do a fairly good job of that. Probably better than anything I'm going to be doing at home. And there was two, which meant it was 2 bank holidays as well. So I only had to take 8 days off work. And plus it was my birthday. So there was lots of
Oh,
factors.
nice.
And so I was thinking, actually, it's a bit of a no-brainer. We've got to drive 4 hours to get to Southampton anyway. We might as well make the most of it and go on a cruise. So yeah, that was our reasoning behind it. And plus the fact that it was a brand new ship-ish, because it had only started sailing in December of 22. So it was a fairly new ship still. I'd never experienced that class of ship. And so I thought, what a great opportunity for the price to try that kind of age of ship, because usually new cruise ships always come with a price, don't they?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
this was a good opportunity to do that. And plus, then when I looked at the itinerary, a lot of the ports, I think there was only one port that we'd been to previously, so that was just an extra
Cool.
bonus. It was just new places in the Mediterranean that we hadn't been to before.
Wow. Did you book it last minute?
About 4 weeks out.
Wow. So that's even
Yeah.
better because that's a surprise cruise.
We already had a cruise book for June. We booked that back in January, but this was kind of like a little cheeky one that we added in at the last minute.
I think it's that shoulder season, isn't it? You can get some fantastic prices if you are able to travel, obviously, outside of the summer holiday period. Kind of go in May and then September, October time, you're going to find some fantastic prices on pretty much every single cruise line because it's kind of that shoulder season. So weather's a bit uncertain. It's not as in demand because obviously the kids are in school. So if you are looking for a bargain from the UK, I can talk about at least anyway, definitely look at kind of that April, May, and then September, October period. You'll find some probably the best prices for a lot of these cruises, especially ex-UK sailings as well.
I would agree with that. We had we've had in the past, we've had some really good cruises in April, and some of those have been repositioning ones. So that's been a bonus as well because we've gone from one place to another. We've stayed in both ports either end and extended the holiday, and it's just offered a completely different itinerary to what we would normally get. So, and the price again, yeah, April is good time for us.
So what cabin did you choose, Laura?
Okay, so I wouldn't say choose.
Okay.
What cabin were we given? Okay, so we because it was last minute-ish, and we were going for the cheapest price that was offered, we had a guaranteed inside cabin. So what we did was, it was the first time we've always chosen where our cabin is before. We've always paid that little bit extra and made sure that we picked a stateroom or a cabin that was in a place that we wanted. So not near a laundrette, those kind of things, kind of almost in the middle, mid aft, mid forward. But because of the saver rate which P&O offers, we had a guaranteed cabin, and we online travel agent that we used, you could pay like a little bit extra, and it was only a little bit extra, but you could pay a little bit extra, and they said that they would guarantee that you were mid forward or mid aft, which is what we kind of wanted, but also that it would be in a quieter location, so it wouldn't
Oh,
be
I've
right.
near a
watched your
lawn.
video, so I know what's coming.
So it would be in a quieter location, and on the face of it, where they put us, which was deck 4, which was the lowest passenger jet deck that
Mm.
you could book. On the face of it, it was quite quiet. It was in a really good location as well for getting on and off the ship in port, because we usually had the gangway either on deck 3 or deck 4, so that was really easy, and that was a huge bonus because when you get back from port and then you're having to battle with a lift because your cabin's up so
Mm.
high. We didn't have that. We literally either walked down the corridor or we just walked up and down one flight of steps. So that was a huge bonus. And generally, the deck itself was quiet, but the cabin that they stuck us in was not.
Right.
Okay, so the reason is because they put us in the last cabin next to the crew area. So we were a little bit worried about when we looked at the deck plan, when we were allocated our cabin, we looked at the deck plan and there was this huge void behind our cabin. And we were like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? We're going to have engine vibrations and noise and things like that. So when we initially got into the cabin, we were like, actually, this is quite quiet. But what we did find out, and we did materialize during the cruise, was that because there was crew areas basically underneath, behind, and to the side of our cabin, that's when they were doing a lot of moving around of trolleys and things. I'm guessing maybe laundry and things. So there was lots of rumbling of thunder, that kind of noise where they were moving trolleys back and forth. And then there was one night, in fairness, there was one night when we then realised that the officers' crew mess was right next door as well. So on the coronation night, they let their hair down and they had a bit of a party.
And they didn't invite you to it. That's the worst part.
Didn't. They didn't. We heard them when it was kicking out time. So it was kicking out time at about 2:00. And so we heard them all leaving and stuff. I mean, in fairness, they're all allowed to, have a
Yeah.
good time and stuff. And it was only one night, so we could manage that. But it wouldn't have been our choice if we'd have chosen it.
This is the thing, we talked about it in our cabin guide episode, wasn't it? It's that double-edged sword of kind of you're saving a lot of money, but you unfortunately never really know where you're going to be on the ship if you kind of go for guaranteed rates. So and it can sometimes work in your favor. We've had it work in our favor. We've also had it work against us where we've been next door to the access to the floor. So again, equally at 6 a.m, you can hear them coming out with all the laundry and everything like that. And it's just a double-edged sword, unfortunately. You do and have to take the rough with the smooth if you kind of book a guaranteed cabin rate, isn't it? It's saving money, potentially in a great area.
Yeah, the price. So P&O do 2 prices. So they do I think it's called select rate.
Yeah.
And a saver rate. And then the select rate, you can choose your cabin location. You get little perks, so you can choose from lots of different perks. So you can get free parking at the port, or you can get onboard credit, or lots of things, and then you get your shuttle buses for free when you're in port. But the price difference between the saver rate and the select rate was something stupid like £600. So it was let's just go with this. Let's see, we could get lucky. But yeah, it was almost double the price to do the select rate. So that was our decision making.
So did you feel that you're not a massive drinker, are you? But did you feel that it wouldn't have been valued for the drinks package anyway? Because 14 days is a long time to be on a cruise if you can have cocktails and wine. So how do you feel it panned out that you didn't have a drinks package?
So we paid as we went. We had pretty much what we liked. I like cocktails, so I did tend to if I had a drink, it would be a cocktail. The good thing about P&O that's worth knowing is that you can take a litre of spirit per person on with you.
This shocked me when I found this
So
out because usually cruise lines are really fussy about you taking alcohol on, but the fact you can take spirits on board with P&O, that's
No.
some
yeah,
strong reasons to book a P&O cruise.
yeah. So I took a bottle of Aperol. Craig took a bottle of rum, some Captain Morgan's, and then we don't think we took our mixers on with us. Some people do. I
Right.
mean, you know, they take everything with them. Interestingly, you can buy then the mixers when you get off in port, and they don't mind you bringing it back on again. So there were some times where we just bought soft drinks on the ship, and then there was other times where we bought bottles of Coke and lemonade and things and just brought them back on. So that is one bonus
Ooh.
with P&O, is that they do let you do that, um, so that you've got that in your cabin straight
I
away.
have seen pictures of people who are sharing, like they're just getting ready to go on board P&O and they've literally got pretty much a Tesco's trolley full of like soft drinks, snacks, spirits, and everything. And I'm like, that's great, you do you. I just can't be bothered. It's just like, but I think it's a
There was this
nice feature to have, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know any other cruise line that does that. I was quite impressed by one lady. So we were sat out one evening, I think it was in maybe one of the Italian ports, and we were sat out at the Sunset Bar waiting to sail away. And this lady pulled out like her bottle of wine from her bag, filled up her glass, and then just casually put it back in her bag again.
I will say that this is probably a really
No, that's
British
not
observation, but Brits love feeling like they're getting one up on the bar and in like restaurants
Yeah,
and hotels and things like that. So having like a sneaky bottle under the table to kind of top up, it's like the whole, you didn't see me, I'm beating the system. So I think there's a little bit of
she
kind of
was
like the fact.
prepared. She was prepared. It was like a cooler bag. It was like I could see when she opened it up, it was like all like 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 the picnic bags that you get that are all insulated. It was one of those.
I love it. I love
They do them for festivals, don't they? Because you can't take alcohol into festivals, and they do hats with
hidden
it's
compartments.
got a theme.
Like to smuggle.
Ah,
It is.
clever.
It's such a British observation. Brits love smuggling alcohol into things if they can do it. Everything. The conversations I have with customers about how to smuggle drink onto cruise ships, I'm just like, I'm not getting involved. You do you. There's tips out there if you want to find them. But yeah, P&O, just walk on.
Yeah, yeah, they seem really relaxed about it. Yeah, that is one plus thing about it. Drinks wise, we had what we wanted. I don't think we spent more than the drinks package, so that's a win for us. I think, if you've got lots of sea days, I mean, we had a fair amount of sea days, but if you're off the ship for several days, it just doesn't pay on those days. So we had what we wanted.
Well, that's the main thing, isn't it? Because you're not going to go without just because you haven't got a drinks package. But it's
No,
just how it all stacks up financially.
no.
So obviously, this was a new ship, so that needs to be obviously one of the main questions. So, what did you think of the ship? What is Arvia like?
I was pleasantly surprised with Arvia. So it's a big ship and there's lots of passengers. But I didn't really ever feel, apart from maybe one or two times, I didn't really feel that it was ever too crowded. Because that's
Okay.
always the worry, isn't it? If you go
Mm,
on a big ship, there's going to be
mm,
lots of people everywhere and it's not going to feel relaxing. But in fairness, the way that they've set it out and the space that they've used actually means that it doesn't ever feel too bad. So when, for example, we were going to try and find a sunbed, we never had a problem finding a choice of sunbeds. They had plenty. And then the other thing was if, for example, we just wandered into maybe one of the lounges or the bars and it looked quite busy, actually, if you looked, there would always be a table that you could sit at. So we never had a
right,
problem with getting into places because of too many people. The one exception to that, I'd probably say, is the buffet. But that
right,
tends to be
which
the
is
case.
always.
Yeah, yeah. So what we did was we just ate in the main dining room, and that solved our problem
Mm.
for breakfast.
Yeah, I'm not a buffet fan. I quite liked on Iona. Do they have the boardwalk on Arvia, which was it deck 7, where you could walk through and there was food
Yes,
places?
yeah. It's called the Keys.
Yes, I
Yeah.
quite like that.
So they
Right, that's it.
that we like that. That was a nice spot just to grab something quick. So on Arvia they have 3 stations. So one station was fish and chips, and that was called Hook, Line and Vinegar. The second
What's
station
that?
was Asian fusion. So they had noodles and rice, and they did a really good katsu curry there. And then the other one was a roast carvery station. So they did roast dinners for anyone who wants to have a roast dinner when they're on holiday. And then also they did these Yorkshire pudding wraps,
Oh,
which was
wow.
so York. Yeah. So they had like your roast dinner in a wrap. So yeah, so that was a really nice place. I had a lot from the Asian fusion place, and my boyfriend Craig, he liked the fish and chips. So that was something maybe that we would grab mid-afternoon if we'd eaten breakfast. We would have a later lunch, and that was a place that we quite liked to go now and again because it was just ready to go, and the food is pretty good there.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
I love ships that have that. They kind of have that, like Disney do on their ships, and there's all like the poolside food. I kind of like that, the fact there's quite quick grab and go stations you can go just to grab like a snack. 'Cause I'm not always a fan of buffets. So kind of strolling around a buffet trying to make a meal out of the 17 stations drives me crazy. So to be able to kind of go to a little counter and get a burger or a hot dog or something quick and easy and I kind of know what I'm getting, I like ships that offer that type of just grab and go food option outside
Yeah.
of the buffet station. So I think that's a really nice feature to have there.
Yeah, they also had something called Taste 360 in the Sky Dome, and that was like your poolside grab and go type thing. They did it and I actually thought that it was quite a good idea, really. So sometimes when you go on other cruise lines, you have to go up and you have to ask for it, whatever it is that you want, whether it's a burger or a hot dog or a pizza, whatever. And what they did was their crew was just basically, like in McDonald's where they have like they keep replenishing
Right.
everything so that it's ready to go. So they just had things laid out. So actually, there was a plate of pizza that you could just grab. There was a burger and chips ready to go in a basket. So it was stuff that you could just walk up to, take what you wanted, and then there wasn't as much of a queue because people weren't waiting for their orders. So that worked quite well.
Speaking of the Sky Dome, then, because it's quite a big selling feature, I guess, of the new class of ships as well. And I know they do a lot of entertainment in the evenings as well. So how is that space and how did it feel? How was it during the daytime? And then how does it transition in the evenings?
During the day, it was fairly busy. I would say a lot of the families would use that space. It was the biggest pool on the ship. And so there was quite a lot of children. I mean, we didn't sail in a school holiday, but the children that were on board, I would say a lot of the families did kind of gravitate to that space.
Hmm.
There wasn't I wouldn't say there was any from memory. I don't think there was any sun loungers as such. It was all just chairs around the swimming pool. They had stuff during the day, so they had like interactive quizzes on the big screen. The lady who she was like the resident busker on board, she would come in and do a set during the afternoon just for a bit of background music. And then during the evening, they would host some of the entertainment there. So they had guest performers there. They had like tribute acts. So there was on ours, there was a George Ezra tribute
Okay.
and a Pink tribute. And then they did a couple I don't know what they're called, the headliners, like basically the cruise line performers.
Yep.
They hosted a couple of shows there as well. To be honest, it was a bit weird going to a pool to watch entertainment.
Yeah. That's the thing I'm trying to grasp of like, is
I
it
didn't like
an
it.
odd space for it? Some people have
Yeah.
raved about it and it's really a really transformational space and it feels really cool that it's changing. But it is literally above the pool, isn't it? Some of the entertainment. They've got aerial
Yeah.
acts above the pool and
Yeah, so I think there was one that we just wandered up to have a look what it is because they made it quite mysterious what it was. And when we went up there, it was absolutely completely bonkers. There was like these people jumping up and down on those kangaroo like bouncy big things, and they were doing all sorts. And they'd covered part of the pool over, I think, for that, so that they had more space. Um, I mean, I suppose it's an extra entertainment venue just because, if you think
yeah.
about the amount of people that were on that cruise ship, all looking for things to do in the evening, I suppose they're using it
Right.
as another space for that.
I guess it's more that passive entertainment, I guess, then rather than going, I guess you go to the theatre if you want that headline show and you want to watch a full on production. And maybe you can tell a little bit more about the entertainment on board as well. But I know they've got like a couple of lounges as well that kind of have more of a cabaret style and kind of the smaller intimate shows as well. So I guess it's just, as you say, to try and split people up. There's just lots of different options depending on whether you're somebody who wants something more traditional or whether you want something just a bit more passive that you can watch and enjoy while you're kind of having a cocktail and it just seems to be happening by chance type of thing, I guess.
Yeah, I would say the Sky Dome is probably more of like your casual entertainment venue. So um, uh, it would be somewhere where actually, if you didn't fancy getting dressed up for the evening, then you might want to just hang out there because there would be still entertainment on, but it would be more of a casual venue.
Yeah.
Um, Going up there for formal night was a bit strange.
Yeah.
So we ended up going up in that direction because and I can talk about this when we do the dining, but we chose to do the chef's table for the first formal night, and we had to queue in the Sky Dome to get to the chef's table, which was being hosted in the part of the buffet. Um, and yeah, it was a bit weird being in that space with everyone dressed up in their finery. There's, like you said, there's lots of other venues, sizes of venues as well. So you've got your traditional theatre, and you'll have your shows like your production shows. They had just launched the Greatest Days Take That musical on board when we got on. So we really enjoyed that show. It was good. It was the closest. I know other cruise lines do musicals, but it was the closest to a proper musical that we'd seen on a cruise line. Usually we tend to watch ones that are maybe just like cabaret showcase type
Yeah.
type shows, whereas this actually had a storyline, and it was a really good production wise. And I think, Sarah, you've watched the full show, haven't you, recently?
I saw it last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it
No.
was incredible. Honestly, one minute you're laughing, then you're crying. And I think my age, being middle-aged, I think you get that whole mentality of because they're going back in time. So it's like you're going back between kids and adults and what have they done with their life? And oh, it was brilliant. I loved it. It was so good.
It was.
And I didn't have high expectations, but I thought it was outstanding.
Yeah, I think it needs to come with a little caveat, is that there is some sad bits in it, but
Yeah.
I
Um,
wouldn't let it put anyone off.
No.
I say it's been really well reviewed anyway. It's the bits I've seen, and I'm not a big Take That fan, but I've heard really positive things about the show, and it's going
It's
down well on
excellent.
social media, having that production on board.
Well, the film comes out next week, doesn't it? Is it next week, the week after?
Does it?
Which was filmed in one of our local villages.
Are you an extra, Sarah? Will we see you?
No. Hang on. Honestly, it was all over the Facebook groups. Everybody was moaning about Clitheroe being taken to gridlock. They were like, but it's Take That. What's wrong with these people? But apparently it was really good for the town, and it's like a small village type town, and I think it brought a lot of money into the shops, and it was really good.
Ah,
So what did you see any other shows? Because I think P&O do shows really well. That was one thing that blew me away about Iona, is that I'm obsessed with theatre, and I loved all of their shows. I thought they were excellent.
I will hold my hands up. We didn't watch any. I don't think. I'm just trying to think now. Did we watch any other production shows in the theatre? Probably not. We watched the only other ones we watched in the theatre were guest performers.
Right. But I think because you were travelling with Craig, wasn't you? So if I was travelling with Chris, I would have been lucky to hit one show. Because I was with a girlfriend, we just went to every show we could go,
Yeah.
made the most of it.
Yeah, totally. I get what you mean. So, yeah, there were some things that Craig really didn't want to go and watch.
Mm.
And there was even one of the guest performers that I went to, and Craig didn't. So, yeah, we did tend to just pick the things that we would both enjoy. Like you said,
Yeah.
that's probably what you do.
But don't you find as well that with the dining on P&O, you've got to really fit it all in, haven't you? Because there's so much. And so tell us about it. Tell us about the dining.
It takes a lot of organising, and I'd say that about the entertainment as well. It does
Yeah.
take a lot of planning and a lot of organising. So now I don't know. I would be interested to know if this is the case on other P&O ships, but I think with Iona and Arvia, because they're bigger ships, they're having to try, and like I said to you before with the entertainment venues, they're having to just spread the passengers around the ship. And so in order to manage that, they are having to ask people to book things more in advance. So P&O will open their entertainment up 2 weeks before you're sailing. So you can go onto your My Holiday Cruise Personalizer account, and you can then book the entertainment that you want to watch. And that's pretty much just really the first week of your cruise if it's a 2-week cruise. And then what that does is that then gives other people who aren't as tech orientated to have the option of booking things once they get on board as well. So it's not completely wiped out with people who have just booked everything up. So you do have to be a little bit more organized, because I want to know, like, what, like, with my dining as well, I want to know like where I'm going to be when the formal nights are, to just decide where I want to eat for those nights.
Yeah.
So I did find I had to be so much more organized. The dining came out, I think a little bit after the entertainment. So I booked the entertainment that I wanted to watch, and then I had a little bit of a breather before I then had to book all the dining. But I was one of those people that stayed up until midnight on the on the day that the dining was released in order to book what I wanted, when and where.
Right.
It's my favorite kind of Facebook post is when people brag about, like, I stayed up until midnight and I got all my dining that I wanted on cruise lines where this is happening now more and more, the pre-cruise planning period. I kind of get a little bit kind of like, oh, bless you. But it's a weird thing, isn't it? That cruise is getting more complicated now. The days of kind of like first seat in, second seat in, first show in, second show in are going away more and more cruise lines are moving away from it and going to kind of open dining. And it does mean that kind of pre-cruise anxiety of, am I going to get the slot that I want? Am I going to get the shows that I want? Is higher than it used to be. And it's just interesting to see kind of what it does to people, particularly if you admin a lot of Facebook groups. You see people kind of getting anxious because they can't get what they want before they get on a cruise. And it does run the risk of putting people off, because they're kind of like, oh, I'm going to be getting on board and I can't do what I want to do. And then they're then having to fight with kind of the maitre d', or they're having to fight with the onboard team and the onboard staff. So like, it's a funny one, because I prefer the other way where it is open dining. I much prefer having that flexibility and freedom personally for how I like to cruise. But I can also see where the anxiety kicks in of, what if I can't do the one thing I'm looking forward to because I didn't book it at the right window because I didn't know I had to. It is a tough one, isn't it, to reconcile?
And when we got on board, we spoke to several people who just didn't even know that they had to do it. Like, so there was particular things that I definitely wanted to do. There was specific specialty dining that I wanted to do, and from what I'd heard about those restaurants, they get booked up really, really quickly. So that was my reason for doing it. I don't think it's fair necessarily to everyone.
No.
And I personally, like you, Kieran, don't particularly like to know exactly what I'm doing, when, where, all the way through my cruise. But the nature of it meant that I did it because I needed to make sure that I could eat at least once in all the main dining rooms. I could go to the specialty dining that I wanted, like do the chef's table on a formal night, those kind of things, where, you know, all the information that I was getting was that it was going to be booked up really, really quickly. So I didn't.
And was it?
So some things were, yeah, definitely. But not everything. So there is some hope for people who don't want to do all that organising and planning. So an example of that is that we wanted to dine in Sindu, which was the Indian restaurant on board. Really, really lovely. Not your traditional Indian that you would find on the high street. So you're not going to find your baltis and your madrasas and all that kind of stuff. But it's like a British twist on Indian. It really, really nice. So we had that booked already before the cruise, and because we liked it so much, we wanted to eat there again in the second week. And we went on to the My Holiday webpage app thing, and it was saying that we couldn't book until, I think they were offering us like 9 o'clock at night. But we did just go up to the desk at Sindu and said, we would like a table for two. We'd like it like earlier in the evening. Can you fit us in? Yeah, no problem. They found us a table straight away. So still going the
Yeah.
traditional route is definitely possible for those types of things. And yeah, so if you don't book everything straight away, there is options to book on board, definitely, and you don't have to do it all through the I probably shouldn't be saying this. Yes, you should do everything through the app, but no, actually you
Sure.
can still just do it the normal way where you go and speak to an actual person and book it. So that was a
This thing though as well of cruise lines are transitioning. I do feel like we're in the middle of a kind of cruise transition with the generation kind of who usually cruise, the generation coming into cruise, and some cruise lines are trying to cater to both. So you've got systems whereby yes, they're favoring the younger generation who are very app savvy and they love kind of using apps and things like that, versus then the more traditional cruisers who maybe have never used an app, they've never had to do any pre-cruise planning. They're used to just turning up and speaking to the onboard teams. So it does vary by line which system they prefer, but I've heard P&O kind of are in the middle of the two, especially with Iona and Arvia. They're in this weird transitioning period where they're kind of trying to test which one works. So you do have a lot of pre-cruise planning, you have the app on board and things like that, but then equally you can also go speak to people on board and still make your reservations and do stuff on board. And they are keeping a pool of both so that it is fair for those two different types of sailors who particularly I think those two ships appeal to, that kind of new to cruise customer who maybe never cruised before. They want the newest ships versus the traditional cruisers who love P&O, have sailed P&O for 20, 30 years, but still want that traditional P&O experience. So I think it's an interesting, I guess, use case of just how cruises transition. I think Arvia and Arvia and Iona, probably a good example of that shift in cruise that's coming, I guess, for the generation coming into cruise now.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. There was almost like two groups of people on this cruise. So there was the new cruisers, the young families, the young people who this was their first cruise that they were trying out. They knew no different. This is and they're probably more familiar with having to do things online. And then the other camp was your traditional P&O cruisers who have cruised with P&O and are very, very loyal and are trying out this new ship. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, there were definitely, I noticed it. And I think with Iona and Arvia, they are looking to the future of trying to entice new people to try cruising. So I
Yeah.
would say that it's more casual than your typical P&O cruise ships. Um, I can only really compare to Britannia, and I think it's definitely a more casual option on Arvia and Iona than it is on Britannia. So things are being relaxed. And I think if we're going to talk about dining in a minute, I think that is also reflected in the offer that they're giving with the restaurants on board. So on Arvia, technically they have 4 main dining rooms. 2 are the traditional dining rooms that everyone thinks of, and then the other 2 are the Olive Grove, which is classed as a main dining room, and it's complimentary. It's not on Iona. I think on Iona it's an extra fee per plate, but Arvia has Olive Grove, and it also has the 6th Street Diner, which is an American diner on board. Again, complimentary, used as one of the main dining rooms, and definitely completely different to anything else that's on P&O at the moment. So,
And she's getting rave reviews as well, the diner. Everyone, I think, who I know has gone on, they all share loads of pictures and they rave about the diner, saying it's so different, but they love it.
I think it's refreshing.
The Olive Grove on Iona is a mix.
Is it?
So you've got upcharges on certain things, so you can choose to, but a lot of the specialty dining is like that anyway, isn't it? But I think they had 4 main restaurants
Yeah, I think
plus the Olive Grove.
yeah, I think it's because it's this. I suppose it's the same class. It's probably a very similar design,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Similar.
Right.
But yeah, they've incorporated the Olive Grove into that now on our Arvia.
Yeah.
6th Street Diner is, yeah, it's a refreshing change. It's definitely completely different and will definitely appeal to younger cruisers with families. You know, it's something. It's a place where actually you could take the whole family. So if there's children that are in your party, then there's going to be something that all of them can find to eat, which is really, really good. We ate there once for brunch and once for evening meal. That was really more about time, I suppose, and making sure that we
Yeah,
ate
nice.
in all the places that we wanted to eat, and that was the only reason why we ate there once. We only ate in the Olive Grove once as well because of that reason. There was just lots of places to eat on board, and we wanted to eat
No, no,
in as
no.
many as possible. So, um, main dining room is right at the back, huge great windows, which is lovely. So the Meridian is at the bottom, Zenith is right upstairs, and there's like a staircase that links the two. Both identical, really, and what you would expect from a traditional main dining room on P&O. But yeah, nice to have that addition of the Olive Grove and the Sixth Street Diner. For more of a casual option, I suppose, again, like it's just including these more casual options for people who don't want that formal three-course meal as such. So the Olive
Yeah,
Grove
yeah.
is like Mediterranean food. So, you've got all sorts of different themed dishes that will appeal to people. And then obviously the Sixth Street Diner is a British take on American food.
Wow.
And all that entails.
So, what was your favourite specialty dining? Did you do it all?
We didn't do everything. We did as much as we could. So we ate in we ate in Sindu. We ate there twice because we liked it so
Destination.
much. And I would definitely recommend that to anyone. And I'm not a massive fan of Indian food, but actually it was really, really nice because it wasn't, your traditional, I won't even say traditional, your British
Yeah.
curries that you would find normally.
Yeah.
So, for example, what I had was like the main I had was lobster, duck, and
Oh, wow.
something else, and it was
Yeah,
like
no, you
kind
wouldn't
of
expect that in Indian, would you?
yeah, and like putting all those different flavors together. It was really, really nice. So Sindhu was definitely one that I would recommend to anyone. We ate at the Epicurean as well. So the Epicurean is more of like a fine dining restaurant, I suppose. And that was really, really nice. The quality of the food was good there. Another place that we were told would get booked up really, really early. So that was one that we wanted to make sure that we booked. We ate at the Beach House, which is basically a section of the buffet that's taken
Good.
over in the evenings. And that was your kind of, I suppose, American Caribbean food. Just a small cover charge. There's extras that you can pay for extra on the menu, but it was okay. There's nothing to shout about. It was all right.
This seems to be a bit of a trend, though, with Carnival Corp, because they do something similar on Holland America and now on Cunard as well, whereby in the evenings, the buffet becomes a specialty restaurant. And it's nice to have the choice. Don't get me wrong, I've had an amazing meal in the one on Cunard, which was a Pan-Asian one, and it was the best meal I ate the entire week. But it's just really weird that you're sat in the buffet and you can't escape the fact that you sat in the buffet. I don't know what it was like on Arvia, but on Cunard, it definitely was the buffet with just different curtains. And I couldn't escape the fact that I'm kind of sat in the buffet while other people are at the other end of it eating from the buffet. And I'm in what is upcharge dining type of thing. It's I like the food. I can't fault. The food was amazing, but I've noticed it across a couple of the Carnival brands, like Holland America, especially. I know Cunard, and now it sounds like P&O are doing the same as well. It's just a bit odd in the buffet.
Princess used to do it with their crab shack. So they used to have a crab shack, and that was part of the buffet that was taken over. And then on some of their older ships, they had like the Sterling Steakhouse that was like a pop up as well. Um, what I would say is that you're sat in the buffet in effect. It's table service, but you're sat in the buffet, and that was very apparent when we booked the chef's table. So the chef's table's it's included, but it's only available on your celebration evenings, your formal nights. And
Right.
the menu is supposed to be better than, say, the main dining room, but it's in the buffet. So you're all in your fancy clothes and you sat in the buffet. So the setting,
Do you know that I really enjoyed that? And I didn't think I would. When my Sue said she'd booked it, I thought, great. But I really, really enjoyed the way they did that on Iona. So maybe it's a bit different. Because I am not a buffet fan.
It's just more the concept of it's like this signature dining experience, but you are in the buffet. And I
Well,
think You just
Yeah.
can't escape that weird kind of like, oh, I'm in the buffet. You're always, I don't know, every now and then you're just subtly reminded that you're dining. I can't fault the food. Like I say, the food is incredible. So it's not, and I should say, it's all table service. You're getting the same, signature dining experience. You're just located in an area of the buffet, and you just can't shake that weird feeling of, surely there's a nicer place to do this on the ship somewhere.
That was the night
Yeah.
that was my birthday night as well. So like it was
Oh,
formal night. And we just decided to book it that night because we thought, oh well, it's going to be a special menu. And yeah, the food was nice. I it was yeah, it was just like you said, it was just a bit of a strange setting, but I understand completely
right.
why they do it because, everyone on a formal night would like to eat a three-course meal. They can't fit them all in the main dining rooms. So that is just another reason why they've maybe introduced that just to make sure that
But it's extra venues, isn't it? It's extra space, extra seats for the night type of thing, and it's just giving you option, which I'm all for. The more option on board a cruise ship for you to dine at, I'm all for it.
yeah.
It's just one of those things you love about cruise, just one of those really random like observations you make of like, this is odd.
So what else did you do?
The other one actually, the other specialty dining restaurant that we ate in, it was actually on the last sea day. It was like literally the day before we left to go back to Southampton. And if we'd have known how good it was, we probably would have booked earlier in the cruise and then gone again. It was called Mitsuhana, but it was as part of Green and Co, which Green and Co
Oh,
is their vegan-friendly vegetarian restaurant.
right.
Unfortunately, it's tucked away behind the quays, so not many people tend to find it or try it. So it was really, really quiet. Mitsuhana was the sushi section of that restaurant. So we really like sushi, so that was something that we wanted to try for a lunch. And that was really, really, really nice, freshly prepared in front of us. Because it was quiet, it was lovely just to have. I think if it's busy, I think there's like a set amount of time that you have, but because there wasn't anyone, we could just take as much time as we wanted. And like I said, the sushi was freshly prepared in front of us, and that was a really, really nice treat. And again, something completely different for P&O. So another new addition. Hopefully it will do well. And hopefully the vegan friendly restaurant will do well as well, because there's definitely a market for it, for people who are
100%, yeah.
who are looking to eat healthier or change their lifestyle. That there is that now that will accommodate them, and the prices were reasonable in the Green and Co as well. You just pay for your plates. You can have small plates or large plates, and they were all reasonably priced as well. So definitely possible for someone who's a vegan to go on and eat quite easily there.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a trend across the industry. I'm noticing more and more brands are introducing kind of vegan or lighter options for dining, just because I think people are more aware of gorging themselves. Because I have as well, like with the amount of times we've been sailing recently, I've just become quite conscious of how much I'm consuming on ships. So I'm now choosing slightly different menus, or I'm skipping courses just because I can't eat the sheer amount of food that keeps coming at you on a cruise ship.
I start off really good usually.
See, I do the opposite. I treat myself the first night or two, and then I'm kind of
Yeah, I always have to diet up to my cruise to get into my cruise clothes. So I'm still in that kind of mentality for the first few days, and then I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna have it all.
take all the pictures at the beginning, and then at the end of the week, then it's like, yeah, no, dimly lit, please.
So did you have a favourite area on the ship?
Okay, so out in terms of an outdoor space, I really like the sunset bar. It was at the back of the
I've
ship.
seen it. Looks amazing.
And in the early evening, I think probably from like 5 till, I want to say 5 till 10 actually, they would have a DJ out there. So like you could just sit outside. You could have a cocktail, you could listen to a DJ, and it was just a really nice setting. So that was a really nice space, and we would tend to gravitate to there as we were sailing away. So, and then we'd stay like for a little bit longer. Everyone would go in and get ready for dinner, and it would go quite quiet. So I really liked that space. That was a nice outdoor space that we kind of gravitated to. The other space that we liked actually was right next to it. So the inside lounge in front of the Sunset Bar was called the Clubhouse, and that was a huge lounge. And the house band was there every night, and they would do different themes of music. But they were really talented singers and musicians. And so we didn't go every night, but we did go there quite a few times just because it was just a nice place, and it was a really nice lounge as well. It was quite nice. There was loads of seats there. So again, one of those places where you look in and you think, oh, it's quite busy, but actually if you carried on walking around, you could always find a seat and a table. The Amber Lounge is in the atrium, and they do a really nice cocktail list, and it's only available in the Amber Lounge. But it's almost like if the Good Spirits bar on Princess, where the theme is like around the world. So the cocktails are all inspired by different places and destinations. So that was a really nice cocktail list in the Amber Lounge and the Grand Atrium. Yeah, that was nice.
I love things like that. That's what you'll find be the entire voyage.
Raspberry creme brulee I liked. Oh, it was amazing. Did you try is there a jazz club on
Yes.
Arvia?
So yeah, 710 Club is the
That's it.
it's a little was it a jazz club on Iona, or was it the same?
Yeah. It was like a tiny little club, it was jazz and blues, and every night they had a different band or singer on. I really enjoyed that, but it was much smaller.
Yeah, it was quite a small space. I'd say there was probably when we went in there once, and that was the one thing I failed at. I said like I'd stayed up late and I'd booked everything and stuff, and that was the one thing I failed at because I didn't realize that when you got on board, you had to book that, and that was something that just like got completely
Really?
booked. And so by the time we realized, oh yeah, we need to probably book that because that sounds quite good, on day 2, it was full every night. So,
Really?
but what we did was, and it did work for us the one time that we did it. So what we did was we just hovered around. So I think they did like 3 sessions a night, and we just hovered around just before, about 5 minutes before one of the sessions, and said, is there anyone that hasn't turned up? And they said, yeah, that's fine, you can go in. So I think there is that if you want to just hover around and just see if there is anyone, because some people don't finish their dinner in time, or their plans change, and when they booked it, they thought that they could make it and now they couldn't do. And the same goes with the theatre, in fairness. There was that was going on in the theatre, where we just we went in, for example, and maybe someone said, oh, we booked 4, but there's only 3 people now, and they said, oh, that's good, then we can hold that back for someone who just turns up. So there was that going on. The 710 Club session that we watched was called Handwritten. So it was all about songwriting. So it was on that theme. But they did I think like a 90s theme on some evenings. And there was always a theme. And so people could kind of choose which ones they went to. I wish we'd gone there a bit more, really, because actually it was quite a nice setting.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's do, was there any positives or negatives first? Was there anything that stand out amazing, and then what would you improve?
Okay, I'll do it. I'll do negatives first, and then I will then finish on positives. So we finish on a positive note. So negatives for me were probably that you had to be really, really organised. More organised than I've ever had to be on a cruise before in order to do everything that you wanted to do. I would say our cabin location wasn't the best.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair to say. But that's just down to circumstance and the risk that we took by booking a guaranteed cabin. I would say sometimes dining could be a bit busy. So P&O were operating a virtual queue system. So you will go onto your phone, you join a virtual queue, and then they'll tell you when a table is available. And some nights we'd look at the virtual queue and there was like loads in front of us, because it tells you like, so there's so many people in front of you in the queue. So we would go on sometimes and it would be lots of people in the queue in front of us. So we just reverted to what we used to do on cruises, which was go to the dining room and they give you a buzzer and then you just wait till your
Yes.
buzzer goes off. And that was far quicker than the
Yeah.
virtual queue. So although,
I have heard this from a number of people as well, and customers of mine who've said that of the app gives you a really long time, but if you just go there, you tend to get in a bit quicker.
yeah, so although that's a negative, there's definitely a workaround with that one
Yeah.
that meant that we
Mm.
didn't ever wait. I think when we waited like 15 minutes, that was generally with the buzzer. That was how long we were waiting for dining. So that was good. Yeah, other than that, I don't think there's any other negatives, which is, fairly good.
That's good.
Positives, I would say, is
Yep.
although it's a big ship, actually it didn't feel like there was thousands of people. I mean, I don't know how many people were on our cruise. You're probably talking about 5,000 people that were on, because it was out of the school holidays, so less children, but yeah, still a lot of people. We only really noticed that when it was breakfast in the buffet or when we were queuing for a shuttle bus in port. But in fairness, the queue didn't last long for the shuttle buses. They carried on moving. So there was never really a time when we felt like there was loads and loads of people, which was good. Like I said before, loads of sun loungers, loads of places to sit in all the inside venues and things. So they did manage it and they've designed it really well for that reason. The positives, do you know what? There was sometimes with cruise lines where you're not paying a premium, you can definitely see where there's cost cutting and there's things like that. I would say that P&O on Arvia had some quite thoughtful touches that actually did make a difference. So one of the things that was actually really handy was they had water stations all dotted around the ship, so that if you wanted to just fill a water bottle up, that was actually really handy, and they had plenty of those. That's sometimes an issue. You end up having to order bottles of water to your room and things like that, but you've got your water stations that you can just use, and it's filtered water, because my stomach can be a little bit sensitive. So yeah, filtered water was really good. And then the other thing that was actually really just a really small thing, but I thought, do you know what, that's quite good, is the toilet doors. So,
Well, yeah.
Just like,
I
didn't
forgot
see
it
that
were
one
there.
coming.
Such excitement.
so easily pleased.
I know.
So
No, but they are really good.
So you don't have to, like, they've created a system where you don't have to touch anything, which is perfect on a cruise ship, and especially in the toilets, isn't it? So, as soon as you walk up to a door, actually any door, not just the toilet doors, if you walk up to any door, it opened, and then there was just like this locking system that meant actually you can just wave your hand over the sensor to lock it, things like that. It was just, they've obviously thought about what
Contact
happened and making sure that they're minimizing things. So actually, although it's like a really tiny thing, I thought, well, actually they've thought about it and they've made that they've introduced it onto
That would make Phil very happy, because Phil's a massive germaphobe, and Phil walks around with like hand sanitizer and tells me to sanitize anytime I touch a handrail. Anytime I touch anything on a ship, Phil's literally there waiting to dispense hand sanitizer. So little things like that would probably suit him down to a T, because he gets a little bit OCD about things like that.
Yeah, I think.
No, I loved it.
Yeah.
And then the next ship I went on, I was like, you have to touch the toilet doors.
We stood there waving at it for a little bit to see if it would work.
Jedi tricks on the doors, like.
Actually, it's only a small thing, but when you go on your next cruise on a different cruise line that doesn't have it, you think,
I'll be like, oh, I've got to open the
really
door
like
on this
that.
one.
Yeah.
I've got to do it myself.
Then you're there again with your sleeve. I do that.
The other positive I had was the amount of hot tubs. So,
Oh, that's amazing, isn't it?
yeah. So
Is it deck 7 or 8?
I would the promenade is on 8.
8.
The promenade's on 8. And they had one hot tub by the Sunset Bar. But further up the decks, they had hot tubs not just around the pools, they also had them on the sides as well. And the ones on the side had they weren't in, I suppose they're technically not infinity ones, but they're ones where it's like glass all on the outside so that you could actually just sit and look out. You could also, obviously, in port, you could also see people in the hot tubs from a not so flattering angle.
Yeah.
But I sat in the hot tub a couple of times when we were sailing away from somewhere, and it was quite nice just to sit in there and just watch us leave. And that was really, really nice. And yeah, there was just plenty. I don't even know how many there was. There's a large amount of hot tubs, and the ones that aren't around the pool areas were always quiet. So that's a good tip as well.
I think I counted on Iona. I might be wrong. It's on a TikTok somewhere, but I'm sure I counted 18 on the promenade deck. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was 18 on the promenade deck.
That is
I think that's just brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a really nice touch. And then and at the back, the pools, although they weren't very, very big, they also had like the infinity glass so that you could just swim up to the edge of the ship almost, what it felt like. So that was a nice little feature.
How was the swim at the bar at the back of the ship? Because when they announced that, I was like, oh, that's just a selling feature for me. I'd never leave.
Yeah, we did use that. That was quite cool. Yeah, it was nice. It was a nice place to hang out. It did get busy because obviously it was quite popular.
I bet, yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely nice to sit on one of like the stools and kind of be half in the water and then drinking a pina colada. So that was really nice.
In the Caribbean, that would be amazing. Just kind of sailing away from Caribbean islands.
Yeah.
I should say, the idea in your head is like Instagram versus reality, isn't it? In your head, you're like, it's me by myself drinking. Like 40 people around you. And like...
So did you use the retreat? It is the retreat, isn't it?
No, we didn't. No, the retreat, I think we could only book it for like the whole duration of our cruise.
Oh, right.
So we decided not to. But the Beachcomber pool was right next to the retreat, and that was an adult-only area. So that was a nice, quiet space.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did.
Because on Iona it wasn't.
Okay.
And a lot of people complained about that because we went in half term and there was a lot of kids on. There weren't a problem at all. But there were a lot on that pool. But we'd paid for the retreat. It was Norwegian fjord, so it wasn't the best weather. Some days Sue and I were just sat in the jacuzzi on our own in the rain with a glass of wine. But we paid for it.
We
will. The poor man was there, his coat and umbrella. We're there under the. But I wonder if that's because so many people were complaining that the kids were in all of the pools and there was no adult only area. So that's a really good move that they've done that.
They've obviously listened and decided that they definitely need a free adult only pool area, and that's what they've done on Arvia. I'm guess I didn't realize they hadn't done it on Iona. So yeah, just behind the retreat. I mean, I looked in the retreat like through the little slats. But yeah, the Beachcomber is none of the pools I would say on Arvia are that big. The biggest one is in the Sky Dome. But it's a nice pool just to have a dip in, and again, quiet.
So we've talked forever. We haven't even got onto the cruise port, so we'll probably have to skip that for today. But just tell us your favourite cruise port. I know we never get to the cruise ports, do we? So it's a ship. But what is your favourite cruise port? What did you really enjoy?
Without a doubt, La Spezia. So we went to. The beauty is as well, on our next cruise, we are also going to La Spezia. And so from La Spezia, we went to Cinque Terre.
Ah, right.
And that was so nice. That was lovely and really, really easy to do on our own. So from La Spezia, we got a train and we bought a Cinque Terre pass, and that allowed us to go up and down and see the villages. So we thought we'll pace ourselves. We saw two when we were on Arvia. We saw the first two, and they're beautiful. They're just like sitting on the edge of the cliff. All the houses are all painted all different pastel colours. Really, really nice. And we're looking forward to going back there again next cruise.
I'm kicking myself we didn't get off on Virgin. We stayed on the ship, so we didn't get to go visit. I'm kicking myself now. We had a lovely day in the dock having tapas or meze. So we had a lovely day. Yeah, I do every time I write my blog about it, I kick myself. I was like, we should have got off the ship at that one port. We didn't.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. It's a port for Florence and Pisa, so a lot of people I think ended up. Florence is a long way from the Spezia, so it's probably like 2 hours or something each way. Pisa, I think, probably was a popular one. I don't think that many went to Cinque Terre on their own independently. I think generally people were preferring to take organised excursions from that port.
That's what stopped us. We tried to free explore it, and there was some sort of train delay or train strike and everything. And by the time we worked out how to do it, we were just like, this is a lot of effort. And it's a blessing and a curse of the job. We kind of went with the mentality of, sure, this won't be the last time we'll be here. Famous last words. But we were kind of like, luckily, hopefully, we'll be back again. And now we know the lay of the land. We'll probably plan ahead next time, because we are terrible port planners. We don't plan anything for our ports. We just kind of rock off the ship and we're like, right, port, entertain me. We're terrible people.
I do like to have an idea. I mean, we didn't buy any shore excursions on this one because all the ports were fairly easy to do on our own. But we had a bit of an idea in each one, and some of them were really nice in that you could just walk straight off the ship into town. So Cadiz was like that, or Cadiz was like that. Barcelona was fairly like that. Obviously, you take a shuttle bus, but after that, you can just wander around yourself. And the other one was A Coruña, another one where you just literally walk off the ship into the town. So you can quite easily just have a potter around yourself and see some bits and pieces, stop in a cafe, have something to eat, all those kind of things. So they were really nice ports. But the one for La Spezia, I had my plan. I had I'd done the research on the trains side of things.
Yeah.
Which was definitely worth it. I mean, I'm seeing like on the next cruise I'm going on, I'm seeing like the price of a trip to Cinque Terre is like £166. Our train card was like €18. So
yeah,
it just shows that you can do it and you haven't got to spend a fortune.
Obviously, if the cruise lines are listening, I always recommend that customers book the onboard shore excursion. Always, if any cruise lines are listening.
Yeah, we like to self-explore as well. We do like to. There's certain times you've got to, but
it's that thing, isn't it? You've got to do what you're comfortable with. And some people are very happy and independent, a free explorer, and they're quite adventurous, and they're not afraid of getting back to the ship. Other people have obviously want a helping hand, and it's maybe the only time they'll ever do that cruise, so they want to maximize it. So, it's down to everyone's individual comfort level. Me and Phil are very, very confident to kind of get off the ship and have a pot around and entertain ourselves for a couple of hours. And I guess, like I keep saying, the blessing of the job and our passion for cruising, we feel like we'll be back at these places multiple times. So it won't be our one and done chance to do these ports. So brilliant, Laura. Thank you so much for that. It's been really nice to kind of have your first-hand experience of sailing with Arvia and also sailing with P&O as well. I think they're a unique line, definitely because of how British they are. So I think it's really nice to kind of share that with the listeners as well. And I know we get a lot of listeners in America as well, so it could be quite interesting for them to kind of understand a bit more about what British cruising is and why Brits love cruising with a British cruise line that offers kind of more authentic British experience. Now, I know you've got loads of content on your website. So if people want to kind of follow you on social media or they want to visit your website, where's the best place to find you online?
So the best place to find me is cruiselifestyle.co.uk. I also have a YouTube channel, so Cruise Lifestyle. Across all the social channels, actually, Cruise Lifestyle is where you'll find me. By all means, if anyone wants to join us for Cruise Hour, all they have to do is search the hashtag Cruise Hour and that will come up. That's every Tuesday, which is at the moment UK 8 p.m. British summertime. So yeah, thank you ever so much for having me on. I've really enjoyed it, and thank you. I feel honoured.
I feel like as our first guest, we should probably get the Sunday brunch mugs. And then when people come on, they get a Sunday. Maybe we should get a Magically Cruising mug made up. And every time someone comes on, and then by their fifth appearance, they get a golden one.
I'd be well happy
I
with that.
can make
Yeah.
them quite easily. Right, I'll send you a mug, Laura. We'll have to just work out how we're going to do this here, and we need a logo. Have we got a logo?
We do have a logo,
Um,
yes, Sarah, we do.
Right. I was talking about MSC the other day, and I know I was like, I've never been on MSC, and Kieran went, yeah, but you're going on next year, and I went, no, I'm not. He went, yes, you are. I booked you a cruise.
She's like, oh yeah, where did I go in? Am I going this year? I'm like, no, next year. So yeah, I hope you really found that interesting, guys. And again, thank you for coming on, Laura. If you are interested in booking a P&O cruise, then I would definitely love to help you. You can find me online at magical-traveler.com, or you can find me on all my social media under magical TRVLR, except for Twitter. I am Kieran TRVLR. Don't know why, just decided that. But Sarah, I know you guys have a ton of content as well on your website about all the cruise lines, but especially P&O as well. Where's the best place the guys can find that?
So you can find us on Cruising for All and Cruising with Kids. So we've mainly Iona. That's the only cruise we've done, but we've got lots on Iona. And anything that Laura produces, we will share links to that as well. And you can also find me on Mini Travelers.
Brilliant. Great. Thanks for that, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.